I'm Lynne Kulieke. I've been a teacher of Spanish and English for 48 years, but I'm retired now. Oh, my father was Warren Kulieke. He was a forum member. My mother was a forum member, and they became members of First Urantia Society. My father was the second president of the Urantia Brotherhood. Okay, and he was, I think he was president when he died. He died on February 23rd, 1962, and I think he was president then. He was the second president. Variables, he would change the wording a little, but he would bring the Urantia ideas before the Urantia book was published. And then he gave it to me on my 12th birthday, which happened to be in December 20th, 1955, and it was published in October 1955, so he gave it to me on my 12th birthday in commemoration of Jesus' appearance in the temple when he was 12 years old. Yes, it was special because I grew up in Zion where my grandparents were fundamentalists. My mother's parents were fundamentalists. And they said when my father died in 1962 that he was going to hell. And I said, well, then that's the place to be. If my father's going to hell, then that's where I was supposed to be, too. But I was aware of it. It was special because my father was overjoyed when it was published. He was overjoyed, and he thought, oh, the world is going to eat this up, and it didn't eat it up. So I knew it was special. And I knew it was special because of my father and because nobody else ate it up. The fundamentalists didn't eat it up. Nobody ate it up except my father's family.
Have you had any sort of singular experiences with the Urantia book, like
yes.
moments of what you call peak experiences or anything like that?
Yes, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and the answer came, and it wasn't a voice, it wasn't anything. And I told Christy about this, and she said it was your angel speaking to you. But they were speaking to you, and they said, they asked questions. What are you doing? And I said, I'm teaching. What more do you need? I don't need anything more. And it was without words, but it was words. It was without speech, but it was speech. And that's how I knew that the Urantia book was real. And the same with my mother. She didn't want to go to heaven. She did not want to go to heaven if her dogs weren't going to be there. And I said, only personalities can go. And at one point in the Urantia book it says animals have little or no personality. And I didn't understand that, but I told her her dogs were going to be there. I don't know whether they're going to be there or not, but something is going to be there that will take the place of her dogs.
You know, I've always thought, if records are kept of everything, like they say not a sparrow drops or whatever it is, that is not recorded or something like that. So the codes, whatever you want to call them, of every animal maybe is stored away someplace, and when you get someplace else, perhaps you can just download that and sort of replicate your critter. I don't know. I mean, if nothing is lost.
Nothing that is of survival value is lost. That's what it says in the Urantia book. And I think that what we care about in our animals is of survival value.
Absolutely.
But we're in a quarantine planet. We're in an experimental planet, And therefore, some people advance much more rapidly than others. And so we're in a different world from many, many people.
You can say that again. I wouldn't know because I haven't seen other worlds, but based on my experience of this one and how I often feel completely alienated from the whole thing, I guess you could say, I can understand that. I mean, there's a part of me that sometimes I walk out into the world and see people doing whatever they're doing, and it just strikes me as something completely like disconnected.
Mind-boggling.
Yes.
It boggles my mind how people can do the things they do, and I just say that. I just say I don't understand people. I'm grieving right now. I'm grieving for my brother. I'm grieving for my mother. And I said to my doctor, I said, I don't want to go on. I just don't want to go on. He said, well, you will. And my mother, after 6 months, wanted to go on, and she wanted to marry somebody else. And so I take that as a leap of faith. It affects my mode of living. Now, I think that religion is, amongst other things, amongst all the things that the Urantia Book says, it's the relationship between the child and the father, and it's nothing more than, or nothing less than that. And it's the personal relationship. And I don't understand the word personality. I don't understand the word personal. It's more than individual. But as much as I've read the Urantia Book, I don't understand it. And the Urantia Book says they don't understand it. They can merely describe personality and certain things about it. But it's the personal relationship between the father and the child. And therefore, it affects the child and the brothers and the sisters.
The Urantia teachings themselves, so would you say they're perfectly indicted?
No, because it's in English, which is different from Spanish, which is different from Polish, which is different from Chinese. So it's not the perfect translation. It is a translation. And also, the revelation is limited. It's not scientific. It's not the cosmogony. Well, I think that the sleeping subject was an English speaker because he was known to Doctor and Christie and so forth. So I think he was an English speaker. So I think that his thoughts came in English, but it was a translation of what the solitary messengers and the divine counselors and the authors of the book said. Now, there are mentions of more than 2,000 human thought gems. Those thought gems may be Dr. Sadler's, they may be Rufus Jones, they may be any number of people, human thought gems. Bundy, who said what prayer was to Jesus and so forth. I think that these human thought gems were used because they would appeal to the English-speaking world, and therefore it came through an English speaker, through his thoughts.
So there's been some contention, or that maybe it was Dr. Sadler who was the channel, so to speak. What you know Dr. Sadler pretty well, or you had known him?
Well, I didn't know him as well as my mother knew him, or as well as my father knew him, but I did know him. But I also knew what Christy said, and what Dr. Sadler said, and what everybody said, what Jamil said, that the Urantia revelation isn't to be associated with any one person. I don't know if that was part of the messages but I just dismissed that. I just dismissed Dr. Sadler, and I dismissed everybody from it. And I took it at face value that it was written by solitary messengers and divine counselors and midwayers and Melchizedeks and so forth. And it contained human thought gems because the humans would communicate better with other humans. So I just dismissed that. I know.
But there's still some curiosity out there as to whether or not Sadler was the sleeping subject or the channel or whatever you say.
I don't place any credence in it. I don't place any non-credence in it. I just dismiss it.
And does it matter?
It doesn't matter. If you get $1 million check or $1 billion check, you don't question the mailman who delivers it. All right? But I'm not saying that Dr. Sadler, through his multiple readings, hadn't thought of human gems or hadn't translated or included his thoughts in it. What came through was a thorough grounding belief in the Urantia teachings, whoever constructed them, however they came together. With the foreword, with the first paper, the second paper, the third paper, I didn't know what it was saying, and I remember fractal geometry, and I remember screaming up and down the hall when I was a teacher, why didn't anybody ever teach me fractals? And the answer came because there weren't computers around. And that's how I understood. That's how I understood that paradise could be the nucleus of the automaton. That's how I understood it.
In the Urantia book, it says that the revelation itself is meant for a future time. Yes. It's meant for a time after the current ideological struggle. Yes. So do you have any thoughts on that, on what that might be? And I think it's ongoing still.
Well, I think it's ongoing, but I think it's nationalism. I think there's a breaking apart rather than a coming together of nations.
I think I remember Mark mentioning this once or twice, that it might have to come down to some worldwide calamity or apocalypse before people are just going to pay any attention at all to the Urantia book.
I don't know. I know that it's written for at least 1,000 years ahead. I don't expect it to come off the ground the way my father did. I don't expect it to be with channeling or anything else, but my brother seemed to feel that there would be a calamity, Tabamancha, would come to earth, would settle things, he believed in Vern Grimsley, believed in Vern Grimsley's vision, and I guess I broke with my brother then. He got all dressed up and nowhere to go, and I just decided if I was to live the Urantia teachings of love, that I would continue to love my students and I would stick right with them, come hell or high water or the end of the world or whatever would be. But he seemed to feel that the powers that be stepped in, and I don't know, maybe they did.
I think it says once or twice in the book that these messages or guidances can become a little bit perverted.
Yes, it does.
It gets mixed up with ego, will, and all of those human things, and it comes out as something that is not quite accurate, or the message got distorted somehow.
It does, and it says that about dreams also. Don't put your trust in dreams, and it also says with the thought adjuster. I know because I read my mother the thought adjuster papers just before she died. I heard that hearing was the last sense to go, so I read her these papers, and it said the thought adjuster looks forward to the time when it will not have to deal with symbols, when it will talk to you directly. And I've always felt that the definition of man was a symbol and tool making and using biped, leaving the soul out of it, but a symbol and tool making and using biped. And the thought adjuster doesn't, it's looking forward to the time when it doesn't need symbols. One of the best things I had was Dale Robertson going to pick up stones along the beach, about Lake Forest Beach, and said, pick out a stone. I said, pick out a stone? What do I pick out a stone for? Well, you pick out any stone. So I picked out a stone. He said, now try to communicate with that stone. That's what the thought adjuster makes us feel like, and trying to communicate with us. I said, ah!
They get nothing back.
They get nothing back. They get no reception.
But basically, at this point, there's nothing that would come along to dissuade you from the truth of the book.
No. My mother grew up a fundamentalist, and I think you revert to your earlier beliefs. She died not knowing what was going to come next, and I said, that I'm sure of. I'm not sure about the pain of death, but I'm sure of what comes after. We're going to see each other on the nursery world because I don't have any kids and you've only had two. So we're going to see each other on the nursery world. So, but I said, we're going to see each other in the nursery worlds. Well, for how long? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter in the least.